Hello everyone. Welcome to Echo Storyline English. I hope you are doing well today. Tonight, we explore the strange, fascinating, and surprisingly powerful history of clocks, an object so ordinary today that most people never stop to think about it. Yet clocks changed humanity forever, because before clocks existed, human beings experienced life in a completely different way. Think about this for a moment. Right now, you probably know what time it is. Maybe you checked your phone a few minutes ago. Maybe a clock hangs on the wall nearby. Maybe you're already thinking about what you need to do later today. Time surrounds us. Every hour, every minute, every second. Our lives revolve around it. But imagine waking up tomorrow morning and nobody knows the time. No clocks, no watches, no phones, no alarms, no schedules, nothing. You wake up, but you have no idea whether it is 6 in the morning or 8. You do not know when work begins. You do not know when school starts. You do not know when a train arrives or when a meeting takes place, because there is no way to measure any of it. For most of human history, people lived exactly like this. They did not think in hours. They did not think in minutes. They certainly did not think in seconds. Those ideas simply did not exist. Instead, people followed nature, the rising sun, the setting sun, the changing seasons, the weather, the stars. Time was not measured. Time was felt. A farmer woke when daylight appeared. A traveler rested when darkness arrived. A village gathered when it felt appropriate. Life moved slowly, naturally, and for thousands of years. That was enough. But humans have always shared one powerful desire. The desire to understand the world, to measure it, to predict it, and eventually, to control it. And sooner or later, that desire focused on something invisible, something nobody could touch, something that never stopped moving: time itself. Long before the first clock existed, humanity began searching for ways to understand the passing day. And surprisingly, the answer was above their heads all along: the sun. Thousands of years ago, ancient civilizations noticed something extraordinary. The sun moved across the sky in a predictable pattern every single day, without fail. But something else moved too. Shadows. A simple stick placed into the ground cast a shadow that slowly shifted position throughout the day. And ancient humans realized something remarkable. Those shadows could reveal time. The ancient Egyptians were among the first people to use this idea on a large scale. Massive stone obelisks rose above their cities. These towering monuments cast enormous shadows across the landscape. As the shadow changed position, people could estimate the passing hours. For the first time in history, human beings were intentionally measuring time. Not perfectly, not precisely, but deliberately. Later, this idea evolved into one of humanity's earliest timekeeping devices, the sundial. Simple, elegant, revolutionary. A raised pointer cast a shadow onto a marked surface. As the sun moved, the shadow moved, and people could estimate the hour. Today, a sundial may seem primitive, but imagine seeing one for the first time. A device that transformed sunlight into information, a machine powered by the movement of the earth itself. It must have seemed almost magical. The Babylonians improved timekeeping systems further. The Greeks studied astronomy and mathematics. Civilizations became increasingly skilled at tracking the movement of the heavens. Humanity was learning something important. Time was not random. Time followed rules. And if those rules could be understood, perhaps time itself could be controlled. But there was still a problem, a very obvious problem. The sun disappeared every night. Clouds blocked the sky. Storms made shadows useless. And so humanity faced a challenge. How could time be measured when sunlight was gone? The answer would come from something entirely unexpected: water. At first glance, water seems like a strange way to measure time. But ancient civilizations noticed something fascinating. Water flows at a predictable rate, drop by drop, moment by moment. And if the flow remained consistent, perhaps it could measure the passing hours. This idea led to one of the most important inventions in human history: the water clock. known as a clepsydra. Ancient Egyptians used them. Ancient Greeks used them. Ancient Chinese engineers developed increasingly advanced versions. Water slowly dripped from one container into another. The changing water level indicated the passage of time. For the first time, people could measure time at night, indoors, far away from sunlight. Time no longer depended entirely on the sky. The implications were enormous. Courts used water clocks to limit speeches. Religious ceremonies followed precise schedules. Government officials organized activities more effectively. Society was becoming more structured, more organized, more dependent on measured time. And yet, humanity was only getting started. Because somewhere in the world, inventors were working on machines that would transform timekeeping forever. Machines powered not by sunlight, not by water, but by gears. And once gears entered the story, everything changed. As civilizations grew more advanced, the need for accurate timekeeping grew stronger. Empires expanded. Trade routes stretched across continents. Religious ceremonies required coordination. Governments demanded organization. And slowly, humanity became obsessed with measuring time more precisely. Some of the most remarkable advances came from China. For centuries, Chinese inventors experimented with increasingly complex clock systems. Engineers combined flowing water, rotating wheels, and mechanical gears. The result was something extraordinary: machines capable of tracking time automatically. One of the most impressive examples appeared during the 11th century. An inventor named Su Song designed an enormous astronomical clock tower. The structure stood several stories tall. Inside, a complex system of gears, water power, and moving mechanisms tracked celestial movements with astonishing accuracy. The clock displayed the positions of stars, the movement of planets, and the passing hours. Hundreds of years before Europe's famous clock towers, Chinese engineers were already building machines that seemed almost impossible for their time. Meanwhile, another civilization was making important contributions: the Islamic world. During the Islamic Golden Age, scientists, mathematicians, and engineers became leaders in technology and astronomy. Timekeeping was especially important. Daily prayers required accurate schedules. Astronomers needed precise observations, and rulers wanted increasingly sophisticated machines. Inventors created elaborate clocks powered by water and mechanical systems. Some featured moving figures, others displayed astronomical information. Many were considered masterpieces of engineering. One famous engineer, Al-Jazari, designed clocks so advanced that modern historians still admire them today. His machines combined science, mathematics, art, and engineering into a single invention. Humanity was moving closer and closer to a dream, a machine that could measure time continuously, reliably, accurately, without sunlight, without flowing water, without constant supervision, and eventually, that dream became reality. Around medieval Europe, a revolution quietly began. For centuries, people had relied on nature to organize life, but now, mechanical clocks were appearing. Unlike sundials, they worked at night. Unlike water clocks, they did not require a constant supply of flowing water. Instead, they relied on gears, weights, and carefully engineered mechanisms. At first, these clocks were huge, too large for homes, too expensive for ordinary people. Most were installed inside churches and monasteries, and there was a reason for that. Monks followed strict daily schedules. Prayers had to occur at precise times. Religious life demanded structure. The clock provided it. Soon, clock towers began rising above European cities. Large bells rang through the streets. People no longer needed to watch the sun. The bell told them when to wake, when to work, when to pray, when to rest. For the first time in history, entire communities began living according to a machine. This was one of the greatest changes in human civilization. Before clocks, life followed nature. After clocks, nature began losing control. Time became standardized, organized, mechanical. And the impact was enormous. Businesses became more efficient. Cities became more coordinated. Governments became more organized. The clock was no longer simply measuring time. It was reshaping society itself. But another challenge remained unsolved. one that affected sailors crossing the oceans, a challenge so dangerous that thousands of lives depended on finding an answer, and solving it would require one of the most remarkable inventors in history. By the 17th and 18th centuries, ships were exploring the world. Empires expanded across oceans. Trade connected distant continents. But there was a deadly problem. Sailors could determine latitude fairly accurately. They could estimate how far north or south they were. But longitude was another matter entirely. They had no reliable way of knowing how far east or west they had travelled. As a result, ships became lost. Some crashed into coastlines. Others vanished forever. Entire fleets disappeared. The problem became known as the longitude crisis, and it was one of the greatest scientific challenges of the age. Governments offered enormous rewards. Whoever solved the problem could become wealthy beyond imagination. Many believed only famous scientists could succeed. But the man who eventually solved it was neither a university professor nor a famous mathematician. He was a carpenter. His name was John Harrison. For years, he dedicated himself to a single goal: building a clock accurate enough to function at sea. The challenge was enormous. Ships moved constantly. Temperatures changed. Humidity varied. Traditional clocks lost accuracy quickly. But Harrison refused to give up. After decades of work, he created marine chronometers of astonishing precision. For the first time, sailors could accurately calculate longitude. The world's oceans became safer. Navigation became more reliable, and global exploration accelerated. A single clock had changed the course of history. But timekeeping was about to become even more personal. Because soon, people would carry time in their pockets, and eventually, on their wrists. And once that happened, there would be no escape from the clock. For thousands of years, time belonged to nature. Then it belonged to cities. Now, it was about to belong to individuals. As clock-making technology improved, clocks became smaller, more reliable, more affordable, and eventually, people began carrying time with them. The pocket watch became one of the most important inventions in history. For the first time, a person could know the time wherever they went. Time was no longer hanging from a church tower. It was sitting in a pocket, and owning a watch quickly became a symbol of wealth, status, success, power. A finely crafted pocket watch was more than a tool. It was a statement. It told the world that its owner was important, disciplined, respectable. And as watches spread through society, something remarkable happened. People became more aware of time than ever before. Meetings became stricter. Appointments became more precise. Businesses became more organized. Life accelerated, but an even greater transformation was approaching, one powered by steam, iron, and railways. During the 19th century, railroad networks spread across entire countries. Trains connected cities like never before. Goods moved faster. People traveled farther. Economies expanded rapidly. But there was a problem. Every city kept its own local time. Noon in one town might be several minutes different from noon in another. Before railways, this barely mattered. But trains changed everything. A schedule could not function if every city used a different clock. Confusion became common. Delays increased. Accidents became possible. The world needed a solution, and that solution would change humanity forever. Time zones. In 1884, representatives from around the world gathered in Washington, D.C. for an event known as the International Meridian Conference. Their goal was ambitious: create a global system of time, one standard the entire world could follow. The conference established the prime meridian, and from that moment forward, the modern system of time zones began to emerge. For the first time in human history, billions of people could coordinate their lives using a shared framework. The world became synchronized. Time had conquered the planet. At first, wristwatches were not considered serious tools. Many people viewed them as decorative accessories. Pocket watches remained dominant, especially among men. But history has a way of surprising us, and one of the biggest turning points came during war. When World War I erupted in 1914, soldiers faced a practical problem. Checking a pocket watch during combat was inconvenient, dangerous, and often impossible. Military officers needed something faster. something they could read instantly? The answer was simple: wear the watch on the wrist. Suddenly, time became available with a single glance. No fumbling, no searching, no delay. The advantages were obvious, and after the war, millions of returning soldiers continued wearing wristwatches. What had once been unusual became normal. Manufacturers quickly adapted. Mass production increased. Designs improved. Prices dropped. And before long, wristwatches spread across the world. Time was no longer carried in a pocket. It lived on the body itself. A constant companion, always visible, always present. And humanity's relationship with time grew even deeper. As personal watches became common, public clocks continued capturing the imagination. Because humans have always loved giant clocks, there is something mesmerizing about them, something symbolic. They represent order, precision, civilization. Perhaps no clock is more famous than Big Ben. Rising above London, its massive clock faces have become recognized across the world. For generations, its bells have marked the passing hours. Its image has appeared in films, books, postcards, and television broadcasts. But Big Ben is not alone. In Prague, the astronomical clock has fascinated visitors for centuries. Built during the Middle Ages, it tracks not only time, but astronomical information as well. Every hour, crowds gather to watch its moving figures. Elsewhere, towering clocks dominate city skylines. They serve as landmarks, symbols of pride, reminders that time never stops. Humanity has always been drawn to these machines, not merely because they measure time, but because they symbolize our attempt to understand it. And while giant clock towers are impressive, the most accurate clocks ever built are almost invisible, because they exist on a scale far smaller than anything humans can see, inside atoms themselves. By the 20th century, scientists were searching for a new level of precision. Mechanical clocks were impressive, quartz clocks were even better, but humanity wanted perfection, or something close to it. The answer came from atomic physics. Scientists discovered that atoms vibrate at incredibly consistent frequencies. Unlike gears, unlike springs, unlike pendulums, atoms do not become tired, they do not wear out, they remain astonishingly stable. This led to the creation of atomic clocks, machines so accurate that they can lose less than a second over millions of years. The precision is almost impossible to imagine, but atomic clocks are not simply scientific curiosities. Modern civilization depends on them. GPS navigation relies on atomic timing. Telecommunications rely on atomic timing. Financial networks rely on atomic timing. Even the internet depends on synchronized time. And here is a truly astonishing fact. Without atomic clocks, GPS systems would quickly become inaccurate. Within hours, location errors would begin growing dramatically. The navigation systems millions of people rely upon every day would fail. The most advanced clocks in history are quietly working behind the scenes, keeping modern civilization running. But despite all this technology, despite all this precision, the most important question about clocks has nothing to do with science. It has everything to do with us. For thousands of years, human beings struggled to measure time. They studied shadows. They tracked the stars. They built sundials, water clocks, mechanical clocks, clock towers, pocket watches, atomic clocks. Generation after generation, humans worked tirelessly to understand time, to organize it, to master it, and eventually, they succeeded. Or so it seemed, because something unexpected happened. As clocks became more accurate, human life became more controlled. The Industrial Revolution transformed the world. Factories appeared everywhere. Machines operated on strict schedules. Workers no longer arrived when they felt ready. They arrived when the clock demanded it. A bell rang. Work began. Another bell rang. Work ended. Time became discipline, productivity, efficiency. The clock was no longer simply measuring life. It was directing life. And this pattern spread everywhere. Schools adopted schedules. Office buildings adopted schedules. Governments adopted schedules. Transportation systems adopted schedules. Entire societies became synchronized. Millions of people began organizing their lives around precise moments. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, noon, 5 o'clock. The clock became invisible authority, always present, always watching, always moving forward, and unlike kings, presidents, or governments, it never rested, because time never rests. Soon, deadlines appeared, appointments, meetings, work shifts, exams, schedules filled every hour of the day, and people began experiencing something their ancestors rarely felt. Time pressure, the feeling that there is never enough time, the feeling that the clock is moving too quickly, the feeling of constantly racing against something invisible. Perhaps you have felt it too. A deadline approaching, an alarm ringing, a countdown ticking away, a reminder on your phone, the strange sensation that time is slipping through your fingers. For ancient humans, this feeling was almost unimaginable. For modern humans, it has become normal. And perhaps that is the greatest irony in the history of clocks. Humans invented clocks to control time, but eventually, time began controlling humans. Today, timekeeping is more advanced than ever before. Most people no longer carry traditional watches. Instead, they carry smartphones, tiny devices that synchronize instantly with clocks around the world. Some wear smartwatches, machines capable of tracking not only time, but heart rate, sleep patterns, exercise, and daily habits. The relationship between humans and time continues evolving. Artificial intelligence now schedules meetings, organizes calendars, sends reminders, plans routines. And in the future, technology may manage our time even more efficiently than we do ourselves. Perhaps one day, clocks will become almost invisible, embedded into every device, every vehicle, every building, every aspect of life. Yet no matter how advanced technology becomes, the fundamental question remains the same. What exactly is time? Scientists continue debating its deepest mysteries. Physicists study it, philosophers question it, writers explore it, and ordinary people think about it every day. Because time is unlike anything else. You cannot stop it, you cannot save it, you cannot create more of it. You can only spend it, and once it is gone, it never returns. Perhaps that is why humanity became so obsessed with measuring it. Not because we truly understand time, but because we fear losing it. When we look back across history, the story of clocks is not really about machines. It is about people. It is about humanity's endless desire to understand the world. A shadow moving across the ground, a drop of water falling into a container, a gear turning inside a tower, a watch resting in a pocket, a digital display glowing on a screen. Each represents the same idea, the desire to capture something that cannot be captured. Time. For thousands of years, humans searched for better ways to measure it, and along the way, they transformed civilization itself. Clocks changed navigation, science, business, religion, education, transportation, communication, almost every part of modern life. Without clocks, the world we know today could not exist. And yet, despite all our inventions, time remains mysterious. We can measure it with astonishing precision, but we still cannot fully explain it. Perhaps that mystery is what makes clocks so fascinating. They are machines built to track one of the universe's greatest secrets. Today, clocks surround us everywhere, on walls, on phones, on computers, on wrists, in cars, in classrooms, in offices, in train stations, and in countless other places. Yet most people rarely stop to think about their history, or how profoundly they changed civilization. From ancient shadows to atomic precision, the journey of clocks is one of the greatest stories humanity has ever written. A story of curiosity, innovation, ambition, and obsession. A story that continues every second of every day. Because right now, as you listen to these words, time is still moving forward, just as it always has, and just as it always will. What do you think is the most fascinating part of the history of clocks? The ancient sundials? The giant clock towers? The story of John Harrison? Or the fact that modern civilization depends on atomic clocks? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe to Echo Storyline English for more fascinating journeys through history in simple English. Thank you for listening, and we will meet again in the next story. Goodbye.